Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. Please subscribe if you haven't yet already. It's a red button beneath me somewhere, and if you click on that you'll be subscribed. There's also a white bell next to that, and if you click on that you'll get an alert every time I upload new content. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. That would make me very happy. Today's video is the 9th in a series. I had to check to make sure. I am really enjoying this. This is a series that I'm doing with the Rae Morris Makeup Masterclass book. I'm taking a look from the book and kind of walking through the steps and applying it based on my skin type and my makeup collection. I'm not buying anything new specifically to be used in these looks, and my skin tone and all those kinds of things, and going through it just to try new techniques and try looks that maybe I normally wouldn't be using. Today's look is Emerald Instinct, and she and I look very different, but I like the way that this looks. I'm appreciating kind of the step that I took with the green and also with the lashes. I'm embracing using lashes. She doesn't call them fake lashes, she just calls them lashes. So if you'd like to see how I got this look, please keep watching. Step 1 is prepping the skin and the eyes, which I've done. Skin with moisturizer and SPF and everything, and eyes with my MAC Painterly Paint Pot. Then we are using a medium shadow brush, medium oval shadow brush, and applying a matte deep emerald green eyeshadow over the eyelid just underneath the eyebrow bone. For that I'm using Itsy Weekend Getaway, and I'm using a Zoeva smoky shader brush. So I'll pick this up, and because we don't have foundation on yet, not as concerned about fallout, but I am tapping it off on my hand. All right, and just applying, and all right, so this is looking pretty good, and it's a little tiny bit patchy, and what she says in, because we're then going to go into with a metallic green over it, and she says the good thing about metallics is that they help blend. Mattes take more time to blend, which is true, and they can be a little patchy. And I don't know that I would use a color, I guess I could use a color this dark all over normally in my everyday, but it definitely is easier if you're using a metallic or a shimmer. All right, so that. And then interestingly, because in all of the other Rae Morris videos that I've done, Rae Morris looks that I've done, there's a big emphasis on using a clean makeup brush, even if you're using the exact same color for a different purpose. So if I am trying to blend somewhere else, and I guess that has to do more with blending than anything else, but she generally is using a different brush. What I generally do, especially if I'm trying to blend, is use the same brush but flipped over, because now for this it doesn't really matter because the contrast is not quite as stark because it's a green matte with a green metallic over it, but I do tend to, especially if I'm kind of blending colors on my lid, just flip the brush over. That's what I'm going to do now because these colors are pretty similar in terms of tone, not in terms of color. So then we are taking a metallic green and blending it into the eye socket, and I'm using Makeup Geek Epic for that, and I'll insert a picture. Well, actually, I'll insert a picture of step 3, which is with the eyelashes applied. She's saying to take a metallic green and blend it into the eye socket, which suggests to me that I'm blending it just into the eye socket. But as I look at the picture, it looks like it's being blended up into the eye socket. So it's starting on my lid and going up into my eye socket. Yeah, that's a lot more friendly in terms of it's a really pretty color, the blendedness of the matte. So I'm starting on my lid, and then I'm just going to bring it up into my socket. Another thing that I do keep noticing in the Rae Morris looks is, aside from I think the look that I did last week, which will be in the playlist below, everything else that I've done, she's not contouring the eyelid. She's not going into the crease with like a dark matte color. What all of the looks that I've done so far, again, aside from the one last week, are these looks that are with the eyeshadow on the lid and then blended up with nothing really in the crease. So that I think is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to leave that as is. We do apply a little bit more later after foundation, so I'll come back to that. And then clean up any fallout. I don't really have any fallout. Step 2 is to lightly apply foundation all over. I'm just going to use my It Cosmetic CC cream. I'm using Fair, and Rae Morris does like to use brushes for foundation application. So even though I'm using a CC cream, we can pretty much say that it's foundation. So I'm going to apply that with my finger on my face. I'm not using any face primer. I just used face serum, and I'm gonna blend this with, this is nice. This is kind of, I guess, like, I've never used the artist brushes because they're really expensive, but this is one of the Real Techniques, these brushes with this kind of a head. This is the foundation brush. They have bigger ones for, I guess, all over powder or whatever, and then smaller ones for eye detail work. I have the bigger one, which feels a little bit big. This seems kind of like the Goldilocks spot for me. And yeah, and Rae Morris, in every single look that I've done, she 100% of the time so far has applied foundation with a sponge. It's always annoying when my bangs are wonky. All right, that is good. Then we're concealing where necessary, and I'm gonna conceal under my eyes naturally. I'm gonna use my Glossier Stretch Concealer in light. I do use a heavier concealer. I did love the Tarte Shape Tape, but I still have a, oh God, just the whole color range situation with them. It is a good concealer. It is a really good concealer, but I'm trying to explore other concealers for kind of heavier concealer days. But for lighter concealer days, if I'm using a lighter, I like to pair my Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. I like to pair the weight of my concealer with the weight of my foundation. And if I'm wearing a heavier foundation with more coverage, then I'll use a concealer with more coverage. All right, then we are contouring all over, referring to the contouring chapter. So what she means there, and I'm not gonna do it all over, contouring on the kind of temples, I'm going to do, a little bit blending right there, I'm gonna do just my cheekbones and under my chin. The other area that she talks about contouring with is down the nose, which I just don't generally do. I love this brush. This is the e.l.f. Sculpting Face Brush. I love it because it's dense, but it's soft. So sometimes with contour brushes, they're too stiff and they don't really, it ends up giving you like a line. And I'm using my NYX blush in taupe. But with this, I end up feeling like I have a more natural line than, not even a line, a more natural diffusion and distribution of color. And I'm going to just blend this a little bit with the foundation brush that I use, just to soften it a little bit. And then I'll do my jawline and my jawline, just to shadow my jawline. And I also will say that because I'm using such a light coverage foundation today, because I'm using a CC cream, which is not too light, but it's lighter than Estee Lauder Double Wear, that when I'm using a lighter coverage foundation, it allows more of my natural color to kind of move through. So I'm applying a little bit of contour, and I will apply a little bit of blush later, but when I'm using a lighter coverage foundation, I have more of an opportunity for my natural face, like where my face wants to blush and all those kinds of things coming through. All right, then we are defining brows and making sure that we have a super sharp, quote, brow end. If you're struggling to do this, take a brow definer brush with matching foundation. I'll start doing this, and then I'll talk about what she's saying. What she's saying is that down here, and she's not saying, often she specifies what product to use. Like, are you using a liquid liner or a gel liner? Or sometimes she's telling you to use a gel, like an eyebrow gel or a pomade or something. But she often doesn't tell you what eyebrow product to use. So I'm using a pencil. So she is saying that if the end of your brow is not super sharp, which mine is, I find that this is the Anastasia Brow Wiz in dark brown, find that when I'm using this, more than using a powder or a pomade. And also, this pencil is one of the ones that has the tip on the end, like the pointed tip. There are some that have kind of the angled tip, and for that, it's harder for me to get a fine point on the end. But what she's saying is that the end, if it's not as fine as you want it to be, to basically take a brow brush and some foundation. I guess that would be kind of like carving out underneath your brows with concealer. But I would probably just use some micellar water just to kind of make that sharper on the ends. And I'll give this little brush too. And then she is saying to powder the T-zone if you're a little shiny in this area. I'm not really shiny right now. And the other thing too that I find is that she generally applies powder shortly after she applies foundation. And then, so I've applied contour, I'd be applying powder here, but I'm applying brush in a couple steps, which is interesting. So I'm gonna skip the powder for now. And then she says to apply top mascara only to give your eyes a lift. I'm not gonna do that because we are gonna be applying lashes today. And instead of applying mascara, right before I apply the lashes, I'm just gonna give myself a curl. And then the last step in step 2 is to apply a cream bone pencil to the inner rim of the eye to keep the eyes looking fresh. And for that, I'm going to use the, I don't know what the color is, but I'll look it up and put it on the screen. This is the nude side of the Estee Lauder Estee Edit pencil. I'll speed you through this. I got a little eyeliner that kind of fell down there, so I'm just kind of moving it around so it is not taking up any real estate on my lashes. All right, now, and I appreciate the fact, and I hope that you appreciate the fact, that my nervousness over using false lashes has diminished. I'm not a pro by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not freaking out about it. I'll put a link in the description box down below to, if I can find them, like the most recent. I think I did it maybe in the most recent Rae Morris makeup look. So yeah, I'm gonna use the Eyelure Accents. These are 3/4 length lashes. I found, for a while I was using half lashes, and I found that half lashes are maybe not enough, and full lashes are too much, and you can obviously always cut them. And maybe I'll just do a video about lashes because it is such a difficult thing for a lot of people to do, myself included. So maybe I'll actually do a video just about false lashes. But so they come like this, kind of labeled left and right, and generally the shorter ends are going to be on the inside and the longer ends are going to be on the outside. And if you're cutting, you want to be cutting from the outside. So these are 3/4, I'm not going to need to cut them. But if I did want to cut them, I'd be cutting from the outside, not from the ends. But that's just too much. It's the stress of putting on false lashes is so intense for me, for a lot of us, that doing anything extra like cutting them is just too much. So I'm taking these and I am doing a little wiggle. These are already curved, kind of for easy application, but I'm just wiggling this to make it a little bit looser. And then I have one of these kind of bullseye things. This pack actually comes with a little one of it. And these are really nice because I'm putting the kind of the holder part on the lashes and then just kind of putting it on to see how it's fitting. It's just an easy way to make things kind of, make the application part easier. I'm gonna curl, actually before I curl, because one of the other things that you wanna do is put the glue on the lash and let it sit for a little bit so it gets tacky. So you don't want it to be dry. I'm using velour lashes. I feel like they've changed the formula. This is the one that I like. I feel like they aren't using this formula anymore, which is annoying. And then I'm applying it all over, and then I'm gonna go back in and apply a little bit extra at both ends because that is where they tend to lift. So I'm putting a little bit extra on the ends so that if they do start to lift, there's extra glue there. Now I'm gonna curl, and I did this first so I had more time for it to hang out. I'm gonna curl this lash, and I'm gonna keep these lashes and use them again. You can use your lashes again if you don't have mascara on them. I guess if you have mascara on them, you could clean them off, but I'm just not applying mascara, and before or after, just to keep things neater. Yeah, as long as you're keeping the band kind of clean and you're removing the glue from the band, you can use these several times. And give this a little bit of a dry. She is saying here, and I'm not doing it with these because these are 3/4 length, which I know are a good size for me, but she is saying that you can cut them into thirds to make them easier to apply. I will do a whole false lash video, and actually she calls them lashes. She doesn't call them false lashes, but I'll do a whole video about that, and I'll try all the different techniques, kind of cutting it into thirds, using half, using 3/4, and using also kind of the, not the individual, but I got, I think, like little chunky kind of like sets of 3. All right, so now this is ready. I'm gonna go in, and what she says to do is, I'm flipping it over and just pushing it down. What she says to do in the lash section of the book is to begin by applying the lash on the outer edge so you know where it's hitting. But because these are 3/4, and the only luck that I've ever had with applying false lashes is by kind of shooting right for the center of where I want them to be, and then tapping everything down. All right, mischief managed. I did that. Honestly, if I can do it, anybody can. I will speed you through the next one. She's not saying to go in, there's no liner in this, but because I used a black and not a clear glue. I am going to go in with just some NYX liquid eyeliner just to kind of make everything even here. So not a whole lot, but I can see kind of a little glue sticking up there. So I'm just applying a little bit of liner there to make everything appear intentional and not like haphazard glue. Then using a oval shadow brush and using a hint of the metallic green eyeshadow, so this is the Makeup Geek Epic, soften the edge of the eyeshadow and pull it out slightly. So I guess we're doing this, and I'm using a Luxie 239 Precision Shader. What I think is happening is because we have applied foundation and everything, I think that we're just kind of bringing it out a little bit over kind of where the foundation would have been. So I think that's what's happening. I'm also seeing, annoyingly, some creasing. So I'm just going to go in with the clean Makeup Geek crease brush just to kind of soften that a little bit. Then we are applying a matte pink blush. And for that, I'm going to use one of these. I love these Real Techniques brushes. These are the new ones that came out that are kind of glittery, and I like the way they're weighted. And I'm going to use my Marc Jacobs Kink and Kisses. It's pretty. Matte Rose. And I'm using kind of the pinker side and like the lighter pink side instead of the darker pink side, just to give it kind of a light dusting. And finish with a deep rose lipstick. For that, I'm going to use Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk pencil and lipstick. I will zoom you through that. And then she says it's important to keep the T-zone matte, but don't just hit it with powder every time you shine through, which I actually, in my purse, I have blotting paper. I don't have powder, but I am going to powder now. I'm going to use my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Powder with one of the larger Real Techniques brushes. And normally, actually, I do apply everywhere, but especially because I'm not using a matte foundation, I used a CC cream. I know I might end up getting shiny all over. So that's the final look. She has some continuations that you can do with adding some gold or adding some silver, adding some gloss, adding extra lashes, adding black to the water and tight line, but I'm gonna leave it here. So thank you so much for watching. I really am enjoying using these kind of looks in this book as a guide to try new things. So thank you so much for watching. A lot to do in the world, a lot to do on YouTube, and I really appreciate the time that you took to spend with me today. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.